This is the motivation.
One. And we're live, right? Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
everybody. Yeah, I see us there. Hello, everyone.
Yay! Oh my goodness! Thank you, everybody who's showing up on the stream right now. Oh, I see my face. I have a little iPad here. I can see myself. I have a microscope, which you can't see because there's a camera. Max is here. I'm Jamie, co-founder of
I'm
Mini
Max.
Museum.
Hi.
That's Max, and I'm looking at a television screen of Max. So if I point, that's what's going on. But first, thank you all for showing up. For our live stream, we're down to, what are we down to, Max? Are we down to what, 36 hours or something like that?
Yeah, there's not much time left on the
Mm-hmm.
campaign. So if you're here and you, for some reason, have not backed the campaign yet, go back it right now. You've got 33 hours left, which is not that much time. There are 5 exclusive specimens that are only for backers. So if you want those 5 specimens, the link is at the top of the Twitch chat here. It's also, I think, in our Twitch bio. You just go to backerkit.com and search up Mini Museum, and you'll find us there.
Search it up. All right. So first of all, thanks everybody. I mean, we're sitting at 684,000 right now, which is amazing. We've gone for 4 years, and now we're back, and we didn't know what was going to happen, and this is happening. So it's super exciting. And we're very close to the not the golden coelacanth, which would be amazing if we got got $300,000 in 24 hours. So, maybe that would be amazing if we could do that if some magic happens. But we are very close to the coelacanth cutting board, which is extremely important to
Yes.
me personally because I want to put all my cheese on that, and I have a lot of cheese. So, but today we're not here to talk about all that. Although we're here to talk about you, but we're here to show all kinds of cool stuff. I have a little tray here. I keep gesturing and looking down instead of looking at the camera. We have a digital microscope hooked up here. We've got like 5 cameras. We've got Max is actually not here in the same HQ area. He's actually in another location. So there's a lot of exciting, strange technical things going on. So we're going to start and look at all the specimens, not every single specimen, but quite a few of them. Max, what do you want to kick off first? Is there anything you want to talk about?
Actually, before we start with the specimens, real quick, I just want to talk about some community missions that we launched today.
Great point.
We got a couple of these coming up, and part of the idea of the stream is that we're going to talk about those too. So we'll start real quick. If you go into the updates tab of the campaign, you'll see that the very first update up there. There's 3 new achievements. There is share a picture of you with your favorite mini museum, so you can share that on any social media you'd like. Just tag us in it, and we'll come find it. You can contribute to the educator pool. So we had a question about this of, how can I help boost the educator pool? Every 30 museums, every 30 large museums we get pledged, we're going to add another one to this educator pool to send to teachers and librarians and professors. People want to know, how can I help with this? Well, you can go in there and you can get a discounted mini museum that will go straight into the pool. But if you want a smaller scale way that you can help, you can back and just get a $5 add-on. And
$5.
for
That's
every
great.
yeah, for every 40 of those, we're going to add another one to the pool. So we've already gotten one out of the pool there. I think we need another 20 more to get to the next one.
That's awesome.
So you can go in there and back there. And the other thing is you can reach out to an educator. So if there is a teacher that you know, or if you are a teacher, you know a lot of other teachers, there's a little email link in there. You can click it and it'll build up an email for you in your browser that you can then send to this teacher. Just make sure you put your name on the end of it so they know that where you're coming from. Yeah, so those are the three missions. We'll talk about those a little bit more later on in the stream too. But we are here to look at the microscope, right?
Yeah. So we have a whole setup here on the microscope, and we're gonna get this going. Before I start, I'm using a digital microscope. We'll share some pictures of it and talk about it. This is a unit that costs around. People ask this question whenever they see our gear. So this is a new item for us. It costs around $230. It's super cool. It's got a number of different neat features on it. This is new for us, so it'll be a lot of fun to play around with it. While we're going through, we are going to be looking at things that have different heights, and so I'll have to adjust the focus accordingly and move things in and out, changing the lights. So I'm just letting people know that up front that there will be some of that kind of moving around. But we're going to start, I think, here, and I didn't actually pop this guy in here, but I'm going to go ahead and put him up here now. And when I'm looking far away, it's because I'm looking at another screen here. So if I get this blank look on my face, it's not just because I'm extremely tired, but from cutting specimens, which I am. I love it, but I am also kind of tired. But yeah, so the first one we've got here, we're looking at this. This is Muanialusta.
Muanianalusta.
Muanianalusta.
Andrea was very
We have
specific about
fun about that. Oh yeah, and she's probably watching the stream right now, and she's probably clapping for you, Max, for getting that
I hope
right.
I said it right.
Although
Peter
I didn't see it in the chat, yeah. But so this is known as the Stellar Heart, and Max, you want to talk about what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so this is a very ancient meteorite. This meteorite formed about 4.5 billion years ago, around the same time the solar system was forming. The meteorite itself fell about 1 million years ago. It landed in Sweden. And that pattern that we're looking at there is called the Wittgenstein pattern.
Yeah.
Wittgenstein pattern.
What
we're looking at here are these lamellae, I believe they're called, these diagonal bits of metal minerals, which have kind of formed in this weird pattern on top of each other and pushing each other aside. These are
crystallization,
iron,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're iron and nickel bands of metal crystals, and they are most commonly found in meteorites because they need to form over a very long time. And outer space is the perfect place to get that cooling without too much outside interference.
So this one is an interesting one, and of course in the museum you see it as a different specimen. I have a specimen right here of one of the prototype specimens. I'm going to pop that guy in there, and so we can see it. And I'm going to zoom. I'm going to get it. Come on now. There we go. That's nice. And now I can zoom in digitally here a little bit, so you all can see this. These little shreds here come from cutting the meteorite. Including an actual full-size piece of this meteorite in the mini museum would be very expensive. We would have to charge $1,000 for this, but we are able to use some small cutting pieces here, and then we include them in resin. Now, if you have a mini museum 2, you have the Enigma rotor, which was made with the same mold. So we use this little square mold, and then these pieces are all placed by hand to create this really neat pattern here. So that's that. What that particular specimen looks like. Moving on from this one, we're going to go to Mars, right? We're going to go to our nearest big neighbor, Mars. And what we're going to look at is some actual Martian dust here. And I'm going to be really careful when I take this off because it'll poof, and I'm not really into breathing in the surface of Mars. This is volcanic.
You don't want some of that Martian surface in your
lungs? Well, I cut a lot of the meteorites that we've done over the years, and I have a lot of interesting things in my body at this point in time. But yeah, so here we go. Zoom in a little. Oh, there it was. It was perfect. There we go. That's the dust right there. We'll kind of shift that up just a little tiny bit. So that's some dust already from from a sugartite, right? And that's what we've got going on here. And then, so this dust we then take and we put it, those of you with Mini Museum 4 will have Lunar Highlands. The specimen production for that is very similar. We actually put it into a mold. And then we take this mold here. It's a little resin mold. It's a circle here. Let go. There we go. And let's see if we can get this to... I've got a ring light on this microscope. That's the little bright light you see around the edges. Your specimen won't actually look like that. And we're going to zoom in a little bit. And you can see all the little dust in there. And the goal here with this specimen was to make it look like a dust storm. These planetary scale dust storms that occur on Mars that last for months. And slow moving, by the way. It's I think dramatized in the Martian as being this, kind of crazy thing, but they really peak out about 60 miles per hour, which is not nothing, but again, it's not going to like blow you over or anything like that.
That's just around like a lower end hurricane, I think. Which again, I wouldn't want
tropical storm.
Yeah, but the fact that it's planet wide, what's really fascinating to me is this happens because Mars has such little water in it. So all of these dust particles, it's really easy for them to get picked up and thrown out through the atmosphere. And this can just happen basically whenever there's a little bit of wind, you're going to get a dust storm.
I'm looking over here at the chat so that I can see some comments. Hey, yeah, you're in a science museum. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it's like to be here at Mini Museum every day. A science museum where you can touch everything, because we work with a lot of wild stuff here. Let me turn down the brightness on this. This is a real shiny piece of our starry night meteorite from our other stellar neighbor, which is the moon. Max, you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, so first of all, we're looking at a piece of the moon right now. It's pretty awesome. This is a lunar meteorite known as NWA 13951. It is a ejection from the moon. So essentially, there was an asteroid strike that hit the moon. Pieces of the moon blew off, fell into orbit, and eventually some of them crashed down here on Earth. What makes the Starry Night meteorite so special is this pattern that we're seeing here. This dark background of plagioclase, pyroxenes, and olivines is contrasted by those tiny little white inclusions in there, those iron nickel inclusions. It makes the meteorite look a little bit like the night sky, which is where it came from. And that's how it gets its nickname.
It's super cool because it's so dark. I mean, usually the regolith meteorites that we get from here are not this dark. They're a little more gray, but that's a beautiful, beautiful piece. This will be we'll be doing this, and this is also very familiar to folks.
You want to show the piece on screen too? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I can hold up the piece on screen. Sorry, so that's a little dark here. Let me boost that while I'm talking there. So there's the piece that I was just showing. This little tiny piece. And then I'm going to go back
smaller
here.
in your hands than to expect.
Well, I'm actually 18 feet tall, so no, I'm not. All right, so that's what a piece looks like up close, and we're kind of zoomed in a little bit tight there. Let's back up just a little tiny bit so you can see what it looks like.
Do we have the microscope on stream right now?
Yeah. Do we have it on stream? Oh, we're not on stream.
Let's pull it back.
Put that on stream. Yeah.
And then we can see the specimen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I keep squinting at the screen. I'm so old. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so that's what that would look like. That's a sample, and they'll all be different. Every single one will be different. It's pretty cool. Okay, why don't we go to the next one? Because we have a lot to get through. So if I'm going too fast, or if you guys want to see something, pop a note in there.
Bring back the Starry Night. I want to look at it more.
You want to look at the big one? Yeah, let's go back.
No, the little one.
Oh, the little one. Yeah, let's put the microscope back on screen. All right, let's get that guy right there, and I'll get another one so we can see two of them together. There we go. There's two of them together, and that gives you an example of what they look like, and they're all going to be different. So we do these in a great big sheet. So we do that. Well, great big. In our world, this is great big. So a little sheet like this big. But we do that. There's resin we put down. This material is prepared by hand. It's actually pretty heavy duty stuff. So we have a very special mortar and pestle for that, metal one. get it to the right consistency through multiple sieves, so we get it just right. And then the resin is poured, and then we sprinkle this on, and that's where the art comes in with the science. And we sprinkle that on to get all the spots. And then after it cures, you can't wait too long either. There's a lot of timing in preparing this particular specimen because it gets too brittle and then it starts to crack. So then at the point where it's just right, then we cut it, and we cut the whole thing. And Grant did this last run of specimens. Grant's not here today, so you won't see his beautiful face on screen. But he did this last run of specimens. He spent 9 hours straight cutting this particular specimen on Saturday. That's when these were cut. And thanks, shout out to you, Grant, for spending your Saturday here cutting meteorites. That's what we do.
I think there might actually be a sheet of that resin, just the resin, not with anything in it.
Yeah.
But there might be a sheet of that in the workroom right
now.
now.
Oh, maybe we'll go look for that. Yeah, if we can.
So, yeah, but while we're talking about this, I was talking with Grant about this specific sheet, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Because, we wanted to see if we could maybe get a sheet of the stuff prepared for the stream. So I was asking about it. I said, are you sure?
Kind of expensive.
As you said, well, yeah, but as you said...
you got to cut it right away.
There's a lot of time sensitivity here. Yeah. Like, you've got to cut this while it's fresh. Which I didn't realize at the time. So
yeah, if we go back
I was like, let's just do it, right? It'll be easy.
Similar vein, if we go back to what we were looking at here with the dust storm, the Martian dust storm. This is actually a multi-stage process too. This little disc is actually, there's a base that's made first. Jen makes these. She makes these with resin. She makes the bases first, and then she domes up the top. So on these solid bases, she domes up the top in a mold, and then adds the dust and gets the swirl in just right on each and every one of them. This is a very delicate operation. And so when you see these, just know that there's a lot of time and effort that goes into every single one of them. And you guys make that possible. So that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Thank you. But yeah, so that's I think that what Grant said there was very proper. Are you sure you want to do that? Okay, so let's see. What do we have next? We have Conquest of Land next. Let's look at that one. So this is the first land plants. And again, we're not hitting every specimen. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, well, we'll do this one and I'll go back to... I have magma, ocean, and we have hydrothermal vents, which are the cauldron of life. So I'm holding up a little tiny piece of the Conquest of Land. Max, you want to tell us about where this particular specimen comes from and a little bit of the history while I get it set up in the microscope?
Yeah, we're looking at Conquest of Land right now, right?
Yep, Conquest of Land right now.
Yep, so this specimen is from the... let me make sure I get the pronunciation on this correct.
It's Polish, from, right?
I'm not going to be able to get it. It's from the Holy Cross Mountains of Poland, and there is a Polish name for it. Nope, I'm not going to be able to get it.
No, don't butcher it.
Yeah. But the Holy Cross Mountains of Poland, there's a fold zone there where you can find fossils from the Ordovician and Silurian period. It used to be a tropical shoreline about 400 million years ago.
443 million years ago, actually. So, long time ago. Sam, do you have the picture, the actual art for this? Yeah, let's put that up. I didn't mention Sam. Sam is running our streaming stuff again. The man on the wheels of steel over there that I can see that Max can't see.
Yep.
There it is. So yeah, so that's what that looks like. The Conquest of Land. This illustration is one that I made based on the plants. Now, obviously, those plants will be very, very tiny, and that's what we're looking at here. This is that's like a head of one of the Cooksonia, and that's a stem area. And so we have this material, and these fossils are all throughout this material. It's really cool. Go over a little bit to that one right there. Yeah.
So this area used to be basically the perfect space between land and water, where these plants, I guess they didn't really crawl onto land, but they very slowly evolved to be able to go up on land.
Yeah.
They would be these kind of like
migrated to land,
delta-ish island areas that over a period of a couple million years, exploded with plant life.
Yeah.
Really took off after that.
Sam, can you put the microscope back on screen? Thanks. So yeah, there's another little picture of the Cooksonia. You can see the bulb. This one's upside down, but you can see that. And there are other plants. Cooksonia is the one we talk about the most, but there are other plants, and the companion guide we'll talk about. But Cooksonia is the one that's most well known for these vascular plants. There were lichen and things like that, but these are really considered the first real plants, and that kind of kicked off the invasion of land, as it were. Sam,
We got an interesting question here
yeah.
from Way Too Much for You. What is the most difficult specimen to add to the mini museum?
Which,
for the 5th edition?
oh, the 5th edition. That will
Yeah.
be. Well, it's kind of hard actually, but we'll just say that Amelia Earhart is the most difficult one. Amelia Earhart's going to be the hardest, and we're going to actually go to Amelia Earhart later. I have some process stuff for that. This is one where the material is limited. It is chemically difficult to work with. We have to work at small scale, and so it has all of the wonderful things that make a mini museum a mini museum. All of you with a mini museum 1, you have the Colonel Aldrin command module foil from Apollo 11. That's a very limited material. We don't have a lot of Apollo 11 material in general, and to have it from Colonel Aldrin is even more special. So that's another one where it's not easy to work with because it's so light and it flies away. So that would be an example. Totally different world with Amelia Earhart. What we like to say, and we've said it for years, is every specimen has its challenges, and every specimen is going to have its own little bit of fun. We'll talk about that as we go through. But I've been doing this now for a decade, and Amelia Earhart is definitely right up at the tippy top of most difficult specimens. So I can't wait to share that one with you, if you guys can hang in there for that. Okay, so why don't we, Sam, can you pop Magma Oceans illustration up on the screen, please? And I'll get this ready in the microscope. Maybe we'll do it that way. That way you don't have to see me fumble around too much.
Sure. Yeah. So what we're about to look at here is it's going to look quite strange. It's going to look quite scary. This is Earth. This is Earth several billion years ago. Yeah.
3.7?
3.6 billion
3.6 billion years ago.
In the Archean period. The Archean eon. Sorry. Different time scale altogether. What we're looking at is when the planet was still hot.
He's talking about the planet, so go back and go back to the illustration, and then we'll come back.
When the planet was still hot, when it was still being pelted by meteorites from time to time, there was little atmosphere to protect it. Things were just molten. That's just how it was. But as it started to cool, it formed into the crust that we have today. But of course, the crust then eventually would get subducted under other plates where it would melt again and then come back as a new crust. But the specimen we're looking at here comes from the Isua Greenstone Belt.
Go ahead and switch over, Sam.
Yeah, which is a very special area in Greenland where there's actually rock deposits from that Archean eon that were not melted down again. So this is 3.6 billion year old geologic material.
This is also interesting because this is one of the things we talk about a lot here at Mini Museum. And that piece that you're looking at right now is roughly the size of the one I'm holding up here in my hand. And we're looking at a little section of it. But this piece was originally thought to be stromatolite, actually. And it might have been that was when they first found it because it's striated. And it really does look like a stromatolite. When I saw it the first time, I thought, wow, it really does. And the research paper came out and talked about it potentially being a new earliest life. And then they realized after additional study that it wasn't a stromatolite, which is, and actually what you're looking at is a magma deposit that used to be the magma ocean of the world. So pretty cool, I think. It's a fun one. Sam, can you bring up hydrothermal vents illustration, please?
Yeah, we move into hydrothermal next. The Cauldron of Life.
The Cauldron of Life.
This takes us a little bit further down the time period. So this is past all of the magma and the lava and the painful burning. we're now at a area where Earth actually had oceans. It was cooled down a little bit, and life was starting to form around these hydrothermal vents that would spew out sulfur concoctions, essentially, that bacteria would feed off.
Yeah, and so, Sam, if you want to go ahead and switch over to the microscope, we'll look at a piece of this. This is an actual piece of a hydrothermal vent. It's 2.7 billion years old. It comes from the Kidd Creek mine in Canada, which is one of the largest deposits of this sort. The bright colors that you're seeing here are zinc. That's what this particular one is, which is classic for hydrothermal vents. And I want to zoom in a little bit here so we can really see it. And yeah, so this is classic for hydrothermal vents. We also have a copper version of this too, which is also hydrothermal vent, but the zinc is really the one that you want. And we're super grateful to the folks at the Kidd Creek mine who donated this specimen to us. They also, fun fact, if you look up Kidd Creek mine, they also have the oldest liquid water exists at the Kidd Creek mine, and nobody's ever getting that. Be pretty cool. That's how we actually got in contact with them. We talked to them, and they were like, "Oh, we love what you do. We can't give you that water, but we could give you this." And we thought that is also equally just as awesome. That's the wonderful thing about talking to scientists. They always have something really neat to share and show you. Okay, so
something cool Peter discovered about this mine too is that there are still microscopic bacteria that are living there. That are very similar. They're living in very similar conditions to the bacteria that lived billions of years ago.
Yeah,
It's
amazing.
It's not exactly a closed ecosystem, but it's close to it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they haven't evolved too much from their original origins. Can you put up the illustration for rough ruby, Sam? Let's look at that one next. I'll get this off.
This is going to be a great one to look under the microscope.
Yeah, it's
too.
super cool.
There's you can see it here in my background. Rough ruby, very pretty.
Yeah. Do you have the one with the hands? Not that one. You don't have that one.
I don't think we have that one.
Oh, nuts.
In the stream, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. You can see it on the website, but because I really love that picture, we got that from a very famous photographer who works for the Gemological Institute of America, and he was kind enough to allow us to license that image for the mini museum.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see it on BackerKit if you go down to the What's in MM5 and go to the rough ruby section. You can see the image that we're talking about.
It's in there. Yeah, Sam, you want to flip over the microscope? Oh, you're over there already. Great. So this is the outside. Yeah. So here we got a slice of a rough ruby, and I'm gonna boost the brightness up to just about where it is in life, right? So that's about right there. So yeah, you're looking at the outside of a ruby. You can see the orange spots in there are actually the dirt from Mozambique. And if we put in a bigger ruby, one of these, you'll see that dirt all through the material. But this will be.
Actually, I've been wondering about this. Do you wonder if that brown material? Do you think there could be some corundum in there too?
I mean, yeah, little tiny crushed up pieces of it. Yeah, yeah, and that's
which is the mineral that ruby forms from. It's
correct. Yeah.
So.
So yeah, and it's very hard. It's very hard material, and these little slices we'll be cutting off. I'll put another one in here so that you can see another one. So this is the interior of the ruby. You can see the actual shape of the crystal there.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that cool?
It's almost like tree rings.
Yeah. There we go. So yeah, so that's what they'll look like in the mini museum, and somebody might get one with the outside. But these are fun. This is a fun story. I've cut myself so many times making this particular edition of the mini museum. We have a lot of hard material, so in making this, as we were experimenting with the right way to cut these guys, and I'll put him in the microscope here, so that we can look at him. This is an uncut one here, and I'll zoom out a little bit here on there we go.
Oh, here's a good question from chat. Is travel guide for where all these pieces come from. I don't know if we're going to do a travel guide specifically, but you will be able to see where all the pieces come from in the companion guide. We'll include a list there. That would be super cool to do a world tour going to all the different places for MM5.
Yeah, maybe we can put a
you
map
need a rocket
together.
ship for some of them, though.
That's true. Yeah, we have to. Well, maybe we can ask Elon if he can take us for a ride. But
maybe he gets his rockets working. Maybe
most of them work. I think they're amazing. But yeah, so this is the outside of one of those. But if you cut one of these, I'll hold another one up. If you're cutting it, don't cut it lengthwise. Cut it across the with the grain, because it is very hard, and these crystals are incredibly dense. And I destroyed a diamond saw blade that we used to cut meteorites, cut actual metal. This stuff just destroyed it, and part of my finger as well. Very exciting. So yeah.
We don't have to see that part under the microscope.
No, 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 no. And I'm wearing a Band-Aid today too. This was from Monticello, which we'll get into in a minute. Yeah, why don't we pop over to Dunkelosseus? Let's look at living creatures here again. We'll get this guy out, and you can put the Dunkelosseus illustration up, and we can see him. There he is.
There's a Dunkelosseus
Yeah.
very near to where I am, or a cast of a Dunkelosseus. I'm remote right now. I am in Columbus rather than at Mini Museum HQ. And just down the street from me is the Ohio State University, where they have on display a beautiful cast of a Dunkelosseus skull. It's one of my favorite things to see down there at the university when I go to visit their libraries. So maybe I'll take a picture of that later.
What's the other
Share it
thing
on-
that's amazing to see at Orton?
I don't remember what kind of a dinosaur they have there.
They have a
Well, they do.
Glyptodon.
They have a Glyptodon too. That's right. They have a Glyptodon. They've got a T-Rex there, or I think it's just a T-Rex skull.
Yeah, I think they have a
But-
skull in there.
Well, maybe this will be a project update. We can just go and say, "Yeah, look, we went to a museum today."
Well, you know what's fun about that is I don't know that everybody knows this, but most major universities have a geological museum, and it's not necessarily like super big like the Smithsonian or the American Museum of Natural History. It's usually very small, very accessible. You can go in there and look at stuff, and usually the public can go in. So wherever you are, check your local university if they have a geology department. And it's a great thing to go in and see. Go just take your kids in there, or if you are just interested in this, go look at it yourself, because it's super fun. Oh, we're looking at the. Let's flip over to the microscope. I've got the piece in there now. This is a Dunkelosseus bone, and it's very similar to most fish bones when you get down a really small piece. This is a piece that's about 7 millimeters in length. And you can see the cool pattern. Not all of it's patterned like this, so it's a little more flat. This is one I just kind of pulled out because I thought it'd be cool under a microscope to look at. So that's kind of what you're going to look at. Yeah, it is a cool looking bone. I'm looking over at the chat right now. Oh, Jason Fury is born in Columbus. Yeah, so Jason, did you go to the original COSI? When you say you went to COSI, that's the...
There's an original COSI?
Oh, you're so young. Yes, there was
Yeah,
an
I guess
original
so.
COSI, and everybody who's of a certain age says, "Oh, the original COSI was so much cooler." The current COSI is in the old Central High School downtown. I know too much stuff, so yeah, I'm gonna pull this guy out of here. Sam, can you go to? Yeah, so that's super cool. Buckeyes, right?
They got a great dinosaur exhibit down there right now. I need to go this summer.
Yeah, let's go to. Let's look at Daspletosaurus. Let's get that guy in there because he's gonna mess up our paper. He's kind of dirty.
Yeah, Jason knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, Jason knows it's right. Yep. Yeah. I personally like the new one because it's really big and it's an interesting building to be in. But the old one had a pendulum and all kinds of other cool stuff in there. Daspletosaurus, we're looking at the picture. So this is our illustration of Daspletosaurus in maybe his real environment. Fun picture. And then we're going to put his bone in here. So Daspletosaurus is a Tyrannosaurid. Before you switch over, you go back to him. He's a Tyrannosaurid in the Tyrannosaurid line of evolution, which we hope we could actually make that chart of their evolution. Very, very similar to T-Rex. A few morphological differences to this guy, but very, very similar. And the whole Tyrannosaurid evolution in itself is really, really interesting to me. Because this predator has just huge jaws and a huge power that you just don't see in other large theropods. Gigantosaurus did not have the same bite force, even though it was a little bit bigger. This guy was just a beast. But yeah, so the bone, if we can pop over to that real quick, this comes from the Two Medicine Formation, I believe. Is that right, Max? Is that what it says in the paper?
It
I'm
might
just
be
trying to go
Javelina,
off memory.
hold on.
No, this wouldn't be Javelina. That would be
No,
different.
you're right. Let me look and make sure it's two medicine.
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Montana's two medicine
Yay,
formation. That's where
me.
this comes from. It's
Um,
a leg bone, I believe.
it is, and so this is going to be a challenging one too. So you're asking questions about preparation. So it looks beautiful. I mean, look at the color. There is some gray material too. You can see it kind of down in the bottom of this picture here. But we're trying to get as much of this striation in there as possible. It is a little crumbly, so we use a penetrative stabilizer called Paleobond that everybody in this industry uses to stabilize the bones. And Max, you want to talk a little bit about what it's like to Paleobond a bone?
Yeah, so like Jamie said, it's a penetrative stabilizer. It's effectively a type of chemical adhesive. You paint it over the fossil or the rock or whatever kind of crumbly material you have, and it will seep into those cracks and bring together the crumbly material. Um, you might wonder, like, well, why do you need a stabilizer if you're going to be making specimens out of it in the first place? Was to make sure it doesn't turn to dust once you start preparing it.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually have, visible chunks of the material. Um, but it is also not the kind of thing you want to get on your skin because it will seal
No.
very quickly and it will be very painful. It will burn and it will put your fingers together. So you need a full suit. We wear Tyvek suits, these big white, kind of like, well, you like to call it, it's like Breaking Bad out on the driveway, which is
Yeah.
pretty true. You
Breaking
look like
Bad
you're
with
ready for a
dinosaurs.
hazmat.
Our
Yeah.
neighbors are our neighbors can be like they're what are you guys up to? But
Hmm.
yeah, and then it gets really hot too, right? The actual as the
Yeah.
chemical reaction happens, it gets extremely hot. It'll melt plastic. The bones will melt
Hmm.
plastic. That's how hot they get. That's how you know it's
And you
working.
got to do it outside
Yeah,
because you need ventilation. So it's best to do it in the summer, which means you got to take breaks. You got to drink a lot of water
yeah.
because you will overheat in that suit.
But when it's done,
But
go ahead and Sam, can you pop back over to the microscope shot? Thanks. But when it's done, it's nice and solid and it cuts really well. You still get some dust, but much less. And the scale that we work at, it's super important to do that. So I'm going to pop this guy out of here. Hopefully, he didn't leave too much dirt behind. And I'm going to swipe that off there.
yeah, I
Let's look
think
at.
Sam has been doing the paleo bonding on this one, so
Yeah.
I'm glad to get away from that one.
Let's what time is it here? Let's maybe do a time check. I mean, look, okay, we had 20 minutes left.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And we can
Sam.
go a little long too if we
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to.
we can go a little long if we need to. Let's look at red ochre. Now, I don't have Sam, can you bring up the red ochre picture? I don't know if we have the illustration or if we have the ochre itself. Yeah, let's put that up first, and then I'll get this specimen under here, and then you can queue up the actual ochre because you have that too. Oh, that looks so cool in there. You got that up on there? Okay, great. Max, you want to talk about ochre while I get this kind of zoomed in here a little bit?
Yeah, so what we're looking at here right now is cave art, Paleolithic cave art. This is a bowl from, this isn't from Lascaux, is it? Or is it? It might be. I don't remember. Um, but what we're looking at here is a cave
A bison.
painting of a bull, or a bison, yes, thank you, that was made with this material, red ochre. Red ochre is a natural pigment. It is a hematite mixture. It's like a dust of oxidated iron. Um, and what you do is you can take this and you can mix it with water or more often animal fats um, to create paints out of it. You can paint things, you can paint people, you can paint tools, you can use it to make adhesives. Um, but there's a lot of really, really interesting anthropology that's linked up in this because a lot of the materials that you would need to use to make these pigments, like animal fats, for instance, are not only rare but high caloric materials. So we're looking at, human beings who said, I either don't need this caloric materials or I value being able to paint and to make this art and these symbols more than I value eating right now.
Right.
Which
It's
I think
intense.
for a lot of us in the modern age, it's easy to forget, like, oh yeah, I don't I don't need this stuff right now. I can turn it into paint. That's simple for us. But if
Yeah.
you're part of a nomadic society or a hunter gatherer society, that's a much bigger choice to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and this material we call it the dawn of creativity because it was used in human creativity, not just Homo sapiens, but as well as Neanderthals, use this material. They paint their bodies. They would paint cave walls, of course. It was used in burial ceremonies. It was used in all kinds of things, and even used today. It is a key component of various paints that are used to paint things like the Brooklyn Bridge. That's also something that this material is used for today, and
I didn't know
many
it was used
other
for
things.
the Brooklyn Bridge.
It is actually, yeah.
That's
This
cool.
red ochre is used for that. So let's flip over to the specimen. This is
If you're
another.
interested too, there's a little more information.
Oh,
We
yeah.
put out an update about it a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
as
that's
well.
true.
So there's
Yeah,
some information with
great
like
update.
graphs and actual science in it, rather than just me talking about it. So.
So yeah, this is another one of the circular ones that we make, where there's a base and then we put it in there. Jen is making these. These are actual brushstrokes from Jen. We wanted it to have that kind of raw feel. We tried a lot of different things here. We tried making little hands. They didn't. They looked a little not quite right. And then we just said, why don't we just do it? Let's just do it the human way. Let's just put a brushstroke in there, and they came out and they just look awesome. And when they're going to be embedded in the acrylic, you'll be able to see through them, and they're going to be a really nice signature piece in the museum itself. So I'm super excited about these, and they look really beautiful. That little ring there, for folks that are joining us later, is I have a ring light here on the microscope, so it doesn't really have a little white circle on it. That's just the light. But yeah, so I'm going to pull that guy out. And I don't have the raw material here to zoom in on. That's why we had a picture of it. Yeah, so we're going to go from here. We're going to go to Darwin glass. Let's look at Darwin glass real quick. Can you pull the illustration up for Darwin glass?
Let's do Darwin glass, and then let's talk about the update again real quick after that one. So Darwin glass, this is a tektite, which is a very unique type of formation. It occurs when you get a large asteroid or airburst or other impactor that strikes down on the Earth.
Okay.
I think we have it.
We have it, but Sam doesn't have it. So you can go see it. It's a big illustration of it actually impacting in the Darwin crater, or what is now the Darwin crater in Tasmania, and it's super interesting. And this happened 816 million years ago, or 816,000 years ago. Sorry, that's when this happened. Can you pop over to the microscope here? Let's take a look at the glass.
All that intense heat and energy that was released by the impact, it melted the sediments around the crater, and also launched the sediments up into the air too. So they melted down into a glass and very quickly cooled as they were flying away. Find all these droplets of meteorite glass is what this is.
Yeah, so that is, this particular stuff is very similar to moldavite. In fact, it's made in the same kind of way, as well as Libyan desert glass. Yeah. So it's an airburst explosion. And it was used as a tooling material by Aborigines, and it was also revered as well. And it's super cool, and we're really excited to have it. Big thanks to Tom Capitani, who's 100% not watching the stream right now, but Tom, we worked with Tom on Australian and Specimens for many years. Tom is an amazing person. I'm just going to kind of riff about him a little bit. He's the director of the National Dinosaur Museum in Australia. He consults in museums all around the world. He does a lot of very cool scientific mining, and I believe he might be in Azerbaijan right now, or Armenia. Last time I knew, he was getting a one-way ticket out of Australia, and he didn't know when he was coming back, which means he's going to a lot of really interesting geological places, including into volcanoes that he likes to go to. So, sorry, I'm
a little
looking
jealous.
at
That
the.
sounds fun.
No, Tom is just amazing. So, he also has a great white shark in a tank, but not like a live one. He has. You can go look it up. It's a. He actually rescued. He didn't rescue the shark. The shark was in formaldehyde and had been a kind of a exhibit down in Melbourne, and it just sat by itself for many years, and it was in great disrepair. And Tom rescued it and has kind of rehabilitated it at very high expense. Super cool story. Definitely go look it up. We know a lot of interesting people, and Tom is definitely one of them. Let's move into the modern age, right? So that's what we've got here in the samples that we've got here for a little bit further back in time. Let's look at
We want to talk about these updates real quick.
Yeah, you can do that. Let's talk about that, and if there's any questions in the stream.
Yeah, so at the top of
Does
the
he have a
stream, we talked
minor in
about this,
science?
but we can just go over it again real quick because in case anybody here is new, this is the Mini Museum Microscope stream. If you haven't pledged already, you can go to our backer kit. Just go to backerkit.com and look for Mini Museum 5. You can pledge and get pieces of all the specimens we're looking at under microscopes here. Um, we are actually super close to not only our next stretch goal, which will be a cutting board based off of coelacanth. Very excited for that. But we're also very close to the end of the campaign. There's only 32 hours left. So if you haven't backed yet and you want to back, you want some of these stuff, make sure that you back so you can lock in, get the museum, get the 5 backer specimens that will be included too. And there's a couple other missions if you already have backed and you want to do something more. There's a couple other things we can do. You can share a photo with your favorite mini museum, which we would love to see. You can send that to us, or you can post it online and tag us in it. It'd be super cool. You can reach out to an educator that you know and let them know about the Educator Pool program. There's a email link at the top of our updates page right now. If you go there, you can just click it and it'll write out an email for you. And just put your name on it and send it to an educator, a teacher, a professor, a librarian, somebody who you think would like this project. And you can contribute to the educator pool so we can get more museums into the hands of educators for just $1. So if you are an educator of any kind, you can join the pledge pool for just $1. And if you want to help, you can purchase museums for the pledge pool, or you can chip in $5. And every 40 people that chip in $5, we're able to make a educator museum for them. And every 30 pledges of a large museum, we're able to add another educator pool museum. I think right now we're at 73 the last time I checked, which is almost enough for all the educators in that tier too. So
That's awesome.
keep up the good work. I think we'll hit it before the end of the campaign here.
There's also like 10 miles of content on our project page too. So if you're only watching this on Twitch, not on our project page, pop on over and check us out. If you haven't seen a mini museum before, it's pretty cool. We have people from all over the world here that we've been sharing science and history with for over a decade. So thanks, Max. That was a great pitch. Why don't we talk about Monticello, which is currently my obsession in the specimen prep world. There's the Monticello, the actual house, Thomas Jefferson's home. And we have wood from that. Wood that was made into a gavel, a Jefferson gavel, one of, what was it, a dozen of them? Or was it 17? There's a number.
It was about a dozen.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
gavel.
exact, maybe it was 16.
Yeah, and these gavels were used at the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago. Yes, that convention in Chicago, but they were used to gavel and things. And they were made from the home during renovation, so it's real wood. White oak, actually, Virginia white oak, and it's very old growth, and it is very dense. Sam, can you flip over to the microscope? We're going to look at a little piece of it. So yeah, there it is. That's a close-up of that. Maybe I dial down the light a little bit so you can see the grain. This stuff is so hard. Like, amongst difficult specimens to cut, I did not think this was going to be one of them. I knew it would be hard. We cut a lot of wood here. Usually it's pine, but for various specimens we've had in the past, Tunguska, a few others. But this stuff is really dense and hard, and that's how I cut my finger. Slice it with a razor. So be careful with razors, kids. But yeah, so this is a really, really interesting specimen. Of course, we're going to talk about the history of the home. The home is not just Thomas Jefferson. Of course, he was a slave owner his entire life, his children, and all the things that go along with that, which we're not getting into here on the stream, but we will be getting into in the companion guide and other things. We're not shying away from history. We could really fill hours talking about that right here. So we're going to just kind of show the wood here and talk about, process-wise, it's not easy to process this. So, it's one of those things we do, and we take a lot of time thinking about. Sam, you want to pop over and let's show
We do Permian. I think we skipped Permian.
Oh, yeah, I skipped the Permian. Holy crap.
As we're setting that up, what was the
yeah.
most fun specimen to work with this time? This is a great question.
Wow, well, we had a lot of fun with the Mount Everest ropes today. We were taking them.
Yeah,
apart.
that's what I was going to say. Red ochre is super cool, but the Everest ropes, we have an update about the Everest ropes. It's going to come out. We'll show you some behind the scenes stuff with it. We're doing some pretty cool things over there.
Yeah, that was a fun one to work on. I think that, Sam would say that the rolling that he's doing on these metal specimens, we do hand rolling of metal specimens to make them a lot thinner. Actually, did a lot of rolling. I've done a lot of rolling. The rolling's really fun, isn't it, Sam? It's really, really rolling is really hard.
It's
But
great. Well, it's like a workout. You just put in your
yeah,
headphones and you just go up to the mill and you keep spinning and spinning,
right.
and you do that for 6 hours, and then you go home.
Yeah. I mean, they're all really fun to work on because they're so cool, right? They're really neat to look at. And you think about things while you're working on them. You know, when you're working on a meteorite, you think about space. And, you know, for example, lunar meteorites smell like gunpowder when you're cutting them. And, you know, that's actually what astronauts say about the moon, too, that it smells like gunpowder. And so, you know, those kind of really interesting connections and things like that to history, that when you read about it later, you're like, oh, as a mini museum technician working on it, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what that's like. Um, but yeah, I really do enjoy working on the meteorites myself. So I guess when I think about the ones that are the most fun to work on in this mini museum, looks like Jen's got them all. So congratulations, Jen. You get to have the most fun on this one. But from my perspective,
Oh,
yeah.
you know what? I actually do have a favorite.
Do you?
Yeah, the whenever we do early human or um, early people, because we
Mm,
have Neanderthal too. Whenever we
correct.
do any of those tools, that's my favorite because I got to break out,
Yeah.
some deer antler and just
Yeah, we now.
pound away, just like how they used to, and
Yeah,
it's super cool.
we do bone and stone. It's the best way to work on that material and preserve as much of it as possible. There is really no better tool to take to a piece of chert than to use bone and stone, just the way you would if you were flint knapping, and that's what we do. And
Worked for millions of years.
worked for a very
Why
long time.
change it?
Maybe not millions, but at least 8 million, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, so
hundreds of thousands.
hundreds of thousands of years. A lot of technology in that too, and in that early human tooling. Sam, do you have the illustration for Permian? Okay, so you have that one, but you don't have the actual Campyrinus illustration in there. Permian bone, little guy.
I
Yeah,
don't
that
think we
guy.
do.
That guy. That's the
Oh,
one
do
we
we?
want. Yeah, yeah, him. Yeah, that one. So that's this is the Campyrinus, and if I'm saying that correctly, one of the little Permian creatures, little guys like this big. And I should hold up one of these bones. Let me go down real quick here to grab one. We're gonna look at a couple bones, and they are this big. I'm holding a piece of jaw between my fingers right here, which you won't be able to see, but you will be able to see when we flip over to the microscope. So why don't you flip over to the microscope, Sam? We're looking at a vertebrae here. You can see there's a process right there, and right there, and then you've got in here. You've also got neural channels where the spinal cord would go and things like that. So
So
this
we're
is
looking top down right now,
yeah, kind
correct?
of at the edge of this particular one, and they have all different shapes. Um, this will also we have jaws, little jaws. Our dream for many years has been to put like most of an entire bone into a mini museum, and that's what this is. Let me get this guy right
This is so
here.
good.
Yeah, just use a finger on that. There we go, and then we'll
So this is exactly what it looks like. This is a jaw with tiny little
yeah,
teeth from
there it is.
probably a cerapsid, right?
Yep,
A
yep.
early ancestor of a
Synapsids.
reptile.
Well, they are the synapsids are our
Oh,
actual
this is
relatives.
synapsids,
Yeah,
not
this one is.
sorapsids.
Yeah, this one would probably be a synapsid.
Gotcha. So
Um,
this is an early ancestor of a mammal, actually.
Mammals, actually, yeah. So and those are little tiny teeth. And to give you some sense of scale, I'll put in my very fine tweezers in here for scale, and that's how small these tweezers are. They are very, very tiny and thin. So these little jaws will go in there, and we have limb bones, and we have vertebrae. There are ribs. There are skull pieces. The tops of their skulls, the flat tops of their skulls are in here, and so we'll have all those will be in there. And no, you can't request one. You can't. It's going to be what you get. It's what you get. Because we don't have as much of it as we'd like. This material is super neat. Comes from this particular piece comes from Oklahoma, and they mine it out along with some other clay, and it comes with this clay like this. Um, and then this clay, you actually break it down using mostly using water and baking soda and a few other things, and then the bones come out, and then the bones have to be cleaned. All these little tiny bones have to be cleaned. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and our friend Andre Lujon down in Texas, who runs Texas Through Time. It's a museum down there. He's the director of that museum. He's also the president of the American Paleological Society, if I got that correct. Andre is he supplies this to us, and he also supplies another specimen, which Alamosaurus, which we're not going to look at today, but we could look at maybe another day, and a few other specimens for us from that amazing area down in Oklahoma and Texas, where you've got Permian stuff that's very ancient, 300 million year old jaw, like we just saw, as well as all the way up to the end of the dinosaurs, where you have Tyrannosaurids, which Tyrannosaurus and large sauropods, and of course Quetzalcoatlus, the gigantic pterosaur. Super cool area, and we'll have more about that to study. So yeah, so thank you for bringing that up, Max. I can't believe I just walked over the Permian. I had all these little trays set up.
One of the coolest looking specimens.
Let's go to the Empire State Building, and folks, we're running a little over here, so stick with us. We have 1, 2, 3 specimens, and then we'll get to Amelia Earhart. So we're going to look at Empire State Building next, and you bring the building up for me there, Sam, and then I'll get the metal in here, and we'll get a real close look at that guy. Awesome. So the building, there it is, the Empire State Building. This is the stainless steel mullion that run between the windows there. It's very iconic. And Max, can you talk about that? How did we get this specimen? How did that happen?
So we did not go to the Empire State Building and pull this off ourselves. This specimen used to be a part of the Empire State Building. But on July, let's look at my notes. On July 28th, 1945, there was a very thick fog over the city, and in an unfortunate event, a B-52 bomber,
29,
B-29 bomber, one of those planes actually collided with the Empire State Building, and between the 79th and 80th floor. It was a pretty big deal. There was a lot of material that was ejected from the building. It needed to be repaired. But the Empire State Building opened 48 hours later. They were back into it. This material comes from a window of the Empire State Building. This is a piece that was knocked loose by the plane during the crash.
Yeah, so you kind of get two specimens. One, a historic event, tragic historic event like that, and of course, one of the most amazing buildings in history. Go ahead and flip over to the microscope, Sam. And what we've got here is a stainless steel. This one's been rolled already. This is one of those that we're rolling. Just stretch it out a little bit more, plus to make it cuttable. This stainless steel is hard. It's very hard material. It's thick, and so this is also challenging too. In a different way, I'll boost the brightness up a little bit. This one's already been rolled a little bit. But we have to get this down to probably 0.1 millimeter if we can get it. That's 0.1 millimeters if we can get it down that thin. This one isn't even halfway there yet. It starts at its 18 gauge steel, and so it takes a while to do it. We have to heat it up and run it through the rollers, and there's a lot that goes on. Put me back on the screen there, Sam. And then, so I'll hold this up here so that you can see. This is this particular piece, and it's already been rolled a little bit. The real pieces are real pieces, but the parts that we cut off of it with a rotary tool are about twice as thick as this. So this has already been processed down pretty far. So that's what this guy is here. We're going to go from here. We're going to go to Woodstock. We're going to look at the Woodstock stage. So Woodstock, and we're going to have to put the Woodstock image up. There you go. There's the concert and the stage, and I'm going to get the specimen in here. You want to do the little spiel on that, Max?
Yeah, so this comes from the 1969 Woodstock Music Festival. It is the actual stage that was used there. We have various artists: Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Joe Cocker, Joan Bates. All these people were at Woodstock. They played the show. They were expecting 50,000 people. 450,000 people showed up. So this material, the stage itself, was disassembled at the end of the concert of the music festival, and I believe it was used to build a paddleball court
Yeah, it was a
somewhat
paddleboard
nearby.
court. Yeah. And now
Mhm.
it's in the Smithsonian. It's in the American Museum the American History Museum at the Smithsonian downtown there, and well, downtown for us because we're here in Northern Virginia, but just over in Washington D.C. There's a section of this stage, and I believe you can stand on it, so it's interactive, but in that sense. But yeah, we get this material here, and if you want to flip over to the here we go. So we're looking at the end of a piece of the material. This is the top of the stage. So this is the gray stuff is the top, and then I kind of cut it so you can see one of the layers. There's multiple layers to this thing, and it's really interesting old plywood, and it's actually going to cut pretty well actually as far as preparation is going. So it'll get tested too, which will be kind of fun to see. So I love this one. For me, I was born in 1970. I'm nice and old, but I wasn't at Woodstock. My parents are of that age, and I grew up listening to all that music. This one means a lot to me personally because I know all those bands and the music, and those are some of my fondest memories of my childhood and listening to music with my parents. So yeah, so this is super exciting for me to offer this and be able to get this. And this comes from Piece of Stage. These are some folks that actually own the whole thing, and they have some other products, including some jewelry made from the stage and with peace symbols on it. Super awesome. We're gonna have those
They've got cool
add-ons.
stuff there.
We've never announced that, but I'm announcing it here on the stream for those of you. We're gonna hook up a special deal with them and have those as things you can buy later, and you can
We
wear
got
it.
special news drop.
Special news drop. Okay, so let's look.
Add-ons are coming.
Yeah, why don't you bring up the Trident missile, please? We're going to look at the nuclear arms race. While I get a specimen in the tank here. Max, you want to talk about this guy?
Yes, this is a piece of a Trident 1 C4 missile.
Yeah.
It is a nuclear weapon that was decommissioned as a part of the START Treaty. This comes from some backers, Michael and Katie Newton.
The Newtons.
Katie is a longtime fan, and Michael actually works on the decommissioning. And so,
yeah, he works at the
huge
Hill.
thank you
It's
to
called the Hill, and then they decommission these. They explosively decommission them, and so that we were very lucky. Mike called us and said, "Hey, would you like this?" And after we checked out to make sure we could actually use it, we said we would love to have it and share it with the world and to talk about this because history isn't always fun and games. Obviously, there's a lot of things that happen in history, and that's what this is about too. So, nuclear arms race and this, it's a very serious topic. But it is also very interesting to have this. It's not a thing that people can get. Can you put it up on the? There you go. So this is a little chunk of it. It's an aluminum material, and you can see me holding up in the side window there. You can see me holding up a rolled piece of it. This is being rolled as well. It's aluminum for lightweight and strength. And then what we do with this is we break it down and then we roll it out into thin sheets, and then we'll cut it up from there. This is interesting stuff too. Like once it gets this thin, if you heat it up with a torch, which we don't do, but we test things, it pretty much melts. So it's kind of interesting to think about this being the rocket engine, but the melting point of this metal is such that when it's really thin, it'll melt. But it also conducts heat very well. So I guess that's why it's really great for using for rocket engines. So that's what that guy is all about. And we're going to hit Amelia Earhart now, right at we're up a little bit past the 5-minute mark here. So let's put Amelia Earhart up on the screen if we can. Thank you for everyone who's been hanging there. Yeah, casual special news drop. Somebody asked a question, what do we test it for? What was the testing for?
I think this was about Woodstock.
Oh, the testing for the wood on the Woodstock. So, this will be part of the Amelia Earhart discussion. So go ahead and put the Amelia Earhart up on the screen, and we'll talk about testing in general, and it'll cover Woodstock too. But yeah, so we have Amelia Earhart's Little Red Bus, which I have back here behind me on the scary shelf, and you can see me holding the plane here. This is the model, obviously, of the plane. This is her Vega 5B that she used when she flew solo across the Atlantic. She'd flown across the Atlantic in a pair situation, and then she did her own flight across the Atlantic. And
She was in a trio actually. I
oh,
think
was
on
it a
her first
trio?
flight.
Oh, okay, I didn't know. That. I
Yeah.
thought there were only two. But
She
yeah.
was a records keeper on the first flight, but then her second flight, it was just her. She
Mm-hmm.
was said, "I want to do it all myself."
And sure she did. And it was really a crazy trip, all said and done. But this plane, um, beautiful plane from Lockheed Martin. It was in 1966, I believe, was when the Smithsonian acquired the plane from another museum. It was in pretty bad shape at that time, and they stripped all the most of the material off the plane. Not all of it, but a lot of the material got stripped off the plane for rehabbing, and some of that material ended up in private hands, and then it was made into small displays, which have been floating around for many decades, and we have been collecting this material for many years to be able to offer this. It's one of our more expensive specimens, and it's also turning out to be one of our more complicated specimens to do. I'm going to put a piece of it underneath the microscope here and get it in focus before we switch over, and then I also have to change the color here a little bit, so a little magenta.
Oh, it's
right
beautiful.
now.
I can see it. I have a special stream here that I can look at it.
Guys.
This is
Max is getting
so cool.
the bird's eye view of it. All right, so let's flip on over, and you can see just how red some of this material is. Not all this red. This is one that's a little bit bright. There we go. You can see the cracks in it. This is a nitrocellulose paint that was very popular for aircraft. They would dope the actual fabric. This is a fabric that is placed over top of a plywood frame. I believe it's spruce. It's a spruce frame. But anyway, this material goes on. It's got doping on it, and then they paint it with the nitrocellulose. It dries really quick. It looks really pretty. It is also highly reactive to acid, like very reactive to acids. And so when we started testing this material, there were a couple things with it. First of all, the fabric underneath is old. Its plane was 1930s plane, and then it's got the lacquer on top, which is very brittle at this stage. It's really, really hard to cut without destroying it, especially when you need to cut it at scale. I'll put one of our scary razors in here for scale. That's the side of the scary razor. So, you're dealing with something really small. You've got to cut it small. You've got to keep it together. It can't crack and turn to dust on you, which it will. So we stabilize this material by putting a real thin coat of resin on it. And that's what you saw if you saw the last update where we showed specimens on the screen. I'm going to put one of those specimens in here now. I'm going to put that in here so that you can see it. This is a really small piece. It's only a couple millimeters long. We have so little of this material, so we've got to be really careful. I do all this work under a different microscope that we have. I'm going to turn up the brightness here on. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. It looks.
Oh yeah,
good
and you
on
can
the
still
screen.
see the color in it there. Yeah.
Sorry. Let me zoom in a little bit. I hope you're seeing it as well as I am. Let me get down real close here. Okay, now I'm seeing it on the stream. It looks nice. You can see the little white lines that are on there are actually from the ring light. I'm gonna see if I can get it in focus just a little bit more. There. Too far. We're working at a really small scale here, so I appreciate your patience as I mess with this thing and get it just right. I use a jeweler's microscope when I'm working on these small specimens. It's really stable, can get in really well. There's a lot of working room, which is important. So you can see that really bright blob on the kind of top there. That's the paint, and this would be us testing it with a. This is a specimen that we already encased in resin, and then we attacked it with a cyanacrylic glue, so a kind of a high-end super glue, and it came in through the sides, and it immediately attacked the nitrocellulose paint and just obliterated it. It caused it to bloom. It actually looked really beautiful watching it. If you don't mind feeling a sense of horror, because that's not what I want. And it made it a little more orange than it was, and a bunch of other stuff. But we have a solution on that. It's going to probably require double embedment, meaning that we paint it with resin, then we cut it so it stays nice and firm, and then we'll take those little pieces and we'll create a customized mold, and then we will embed this piece again inside a mold. So it'll look a little different than the prototype, because it'll be more like one of those little squares where then the thing is stuck in the middle. We'll have pictures of all that in the project update for you too. But yeah, this is turning out to be one of those specimens that is very hard to work on. But it's also a labor of love. We want to preserve it, make sure it looks as good as possible for folks. And it's a lot of work that goes into this specimen. And so somebody asked the question about testing. We will test the wood stock, and all these specimens undergo a variety of testing. The inclusion process into the acrylic is it's a harsh environment. So when we actually, they're stuck onto the acrylic base, there's a monomer that is used that kind of holds them in place. That monomer will attack the specimen. Some specimens more than others. It causes them to melt like this or do some other things to it. Then they are put inside an autoclave, and in there, the pressure and the temperature will be in excess of 300 degrees. And at 300 degrees for an hour, and then of course there's the chemical reaction of the lucite acrylic actually hardening. And so there's a lot of things going on when you embed something, pressure and heat and chemical stuff. And so we do a lot of testing on these things to see how they react. Sometimes if you have oils in things, they may cause what's called ghosting, where some little oil floats up and it looks like a little ghost flying out of your embedment. You can get little bubbles, which that can be if the product is, or the item being embedded is really porous. You can have air trapped in there. You can get silvering, which is where you have a flat specimen and you get kind of this little bubble. All those are things that we try to minimize so they look good. And our partner Meisner Casting has been doing casting for 3 generations now in New York. Does work for the Vatican as well, and a lot of other artists and what have you. They're really fantastic, and they do a great job for us. But there's an enormous amount of testing with the plywood. We would need to test it and make sure that there aren't any chemicals in it that react with the acrylic, and that kind of goes across the board. Glyptodon was another one. We didn't look at Glyptodon, but we're using osteoderms, and they are a little oily, oddly enough. And so in our testing with those, we need to make sure that oil is minimized so it doesn't seep out during embedment. So these are all things that we go through when we start looking and thinking about specimens, and you don't just throw them in there. And obviously the prep work that goes into this is enormous for each one of these specimens. We make hundreds of thousands of specimens for an entire edition. Our whole team is doing different things. And it is very complicated, and it's a very engaging process too. I mean, there's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into this as you learn over the years how to work these materials. So yeah, that's Amelia Earhart. I don't know that I had another one, and that's also our process for making specimens and testing, and that's just one little tiny part of what makes a mini museum a mini museum.
Yep.
Not easy, that's for sure. So what do we got? What's next? Who's left on the stream? Did we answer all the questions?
I think we answered all the questions that people had. Yeah, and looks like we went through all of our specimens too, which is great.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so I think we're ready to wrap up here. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching the Microscope stream. Super happy to do another one of these and show you guys all this behind the scenes stuff. I thought that was super cool, so appreciate you guys stopping by. If you haven't already, again, you can still go back to the campaign. There's about 30 hours left now.
32 hours.
So make sure you do it. Yeah, 32 hours. If you know people who seem like they'd be interested in, but maybe they've been on the fence, maybe they don't know about it, you got to let them know today, because I think tomorrow is the last full day that you get to back. So make sure you get in there, get your stuff all sorted out, and reach out to an educator. you've got an educator that's important in your life, and you think that something like this would be cool for them, let them know about the $1 educator pool, so they could try to get a museum for themselves.
Yeah, I mean that's a big part of why we do what we do. It's why the companion guide exists in the form that it does. The original mini museum, we did Mini Museum 1. We were going to do more of a pamphlet style, and a lot of people wanted a full book. And there's a lot of work that goes into making that book, but at the end of the day, the reason for doing a big book like that, of course, is for everybody to enjoy, but also because these items are going to last for a very long time. They're going to pass through generations, and they have the power to influence folks, children, and to think about science and history and their place in the universe, not just the world, but the universe, because you're billions of years of history in the palm of your hand. And so that is, a lot of what we do, a lot of what you enable us to do, and that's a big part of why we have the educator program. And you talking about educators and sharing, super important. And Michelle says she can think of many educators who'd love this, and there are many that do. And of course, we have people all over the world that love Mini Museum, the collectors, the people that get it for their kids. Yeah, so you see Max here. He's my child. My other child is running the stream here, and this is a family business in many ways, and I love sharing science and history with my family and everyone else too. So yeah, it's really wonderful, and I'm really thankful that all of you could be out there helping us to do this. So
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy what we do to make it possible for you to enjoy it.
So thanks everybody. Thanks for coming to the stream.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
backing the campaign. Thanks for your support. We still got one more day left. We're super close to that last stretch goal. We're like
Right.
15,000 away, I think. So
Yeah,
we might be able to get there.
15,400.
Let's
We're
keep it up.
very,
Let's
very
keep up the
close.
power.
Yeah. Tell your friends, please.
Yep. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle just added $5 to the pool too.
Yay!
So that's awesome.
Thank
Yay!
you.
That's
Thank
more
you.
museums and schools.
Is there anyone
All right.
else you want to call out while we're here? Any other projects? Backer Kit? Of course, we didn't talk about Backer Kit either. So we're going to sign off, but we should say thank you to Backer Kit because they've done so much work as well. So I definitely want to make sure that we shouted them out before we ran away for the day. Thank you for all you've done, Backer Kit folks, the Backer Cats. I know there's several of you on the stream. There's probably several of you watching in general. Wondering if we're ever going to stop streaming, but the reality is that this has been a lot of fun working with them, and we're just super excited about what's coming next. All right, thank you everybody.
Yep. Thanks everyone.
Play us out, Sam.
Yeah, you can take us away.